All right, everybody. Happy Monday, Victory Monday. Welcome to the afternoon. And it's time for Snap Count Monday, as it is every Monday, where we take a look at how the Seahawks are utilizing their players, who's getting on the field, and when, and for how much. So, this week is going to be a happier affair, not just because we won, but because there were some really positive signs in the snap counts this week. And the good news starts immediately with the offensive total number of snaps 81. 81 snaps run on offense in a game that ended in regulation, in a game that did not have any overtime snaps at all. So, this is big. This is by far a season high. This might be the most offensive snaps we've seen in years in a game that ended in regulation. So this is big right here. Right away, we're starting off on a good note. So great stuff from the Seahawks on both sides of the ball to allow this to happen. The defense for getting the ball to the offense, and the offense for keeping the ball. So running backs. Let's start with the running backs here. You can see that it's almost 50-50. And that's 2 weeks in a row we've been very close to 50-50. Charbonnet got 42 snaps. Walker got 39. So it seems like we like our balance. It seems like we now have an understanding that Charbonnet is a little too good to not put him in the game a decent amount. And by decent amount, I mean about as much as K9's in the game. So if this is the way we're going to go going forward, I'm definitely not against it. It should allow both these guys to have more in the tank when we get to the end of the season. So I'm surprised that we have found that we are at our best, or we think we're at our best, when these guys split carries evenly, but that seems to be what's going on here. Now, obviously, we have to prove that it works as well as just plain working. Like last week, we tried to split carries with Walker and Charbonnet, and it didn't do anything. But it seems like we think it's the recipe. So, yeah, cool. I'm interested to see where that goes. But yeah, 39 for Walker, 42 for Charbonnet. Wide receiver. Pretty much what we've come to expect. DK plays the most snaps at 72. Lockett gets 64. And I think this is just kind of the way that makes the most sense right now, where DK is kind of a receiver who can be on the field in any situation. Lockett, you don't really want him out there that much on running plays if possible because he's not a very good blocker, so he gets on the field a little less. And then you had JSN getting 50 snaps, which is still a lot. It's not nearly as big a percentage as he had last week against the Ravens, but 50 snaps is a big amount. And he played decently well. I wasn't crazy about the game that he played because most of what he did was on that first drive. He did have a drop, but I do think that, excuse me, JSN is making an impact on this offense in a positive direction. So I think this is closer to the formula that we need going forward. Maybe we need to go even a little bit further into the tight end room because we'll get to the tight ends in a second here, but it wasn't exactly definitive, right? Derek Young got 2 snaps and got hurt again. We need to shut Derek Young down for the rest of the year. He's just not right. And it's too bad, but I think he's just got to not play this year and come back next year. I like Derek Young, but this year is just it's just kind of a lost year for him, it looks like, and I don't want him to go back out there and then get hurt again and have it be something long term. So, not much there. Jake Bobo, 22 snaps, pretty decent amount. So I know some people are going to wonder why didn't he play more. It needs to be understood that Bobo, while he is good and he does do certain things extremely well, he is at the end of the day a niche player, and there are things that he can't do. So I think that limiting his snaps, understanding what he is as a player, is for the best. So 22 snaps for Bobo, so you can see how the receiver snaps got split. Pretty much what you would kind of logically expect. Metcalf's your 1, Lockett's your 2, JSN's your 3, Bobo's your 4, and then you didn't really have a fifth for this game because Derek Young got hurt again. Okay, so now we get to the tight ends, and this is where it's certainly a little more encouraging, but we're still not seeing as much as maybe we expected. Noah Fant, 48 snaps, so he plays well more than half the game. But then you've got Disley and Parkinson both playing well under half the game at 33 snaps apiece. So it seems like there's still a. Now, Parkinson was injured this week. Maybe that has something to do with it. And I've wondered if maybe Disley is hiding or nursing some kind of injury this season. So maybe that's going on too. But I look at this and I go, we're still not committing to tight end usage the way we did last year. We're not committing to tight end usage the way we were doing earlier this year in some regards. So definitely a step in the right direction from last week, but it seems like there's still a little bit of hesitancy to really commit to the tight end stuff. Now, this game, I'll say this, Metcalf and Lockett went off, so it's understandable. But that's the outcome. That doesn't mean the process that got you to um this snap count is necessarily correct. So we'll see where it goes from here. But I would say this team overall might benefit from doing a little more tight end stuff and a little less JSN stuff still, even though this is obviously a positive development. And then the offensive line, very simple here. Four guys played all 81 snaps. And then the only guys who didn't were the right tackles. We rotated at right tackle. Mostly Jason Peters, 56 snaps, with a side of Stone Forsyth, 25 snaps. Um, Now, Peters played pretty well in terms of blocking, but I think he had a couple penalties in this game. So I don't know how good his game was overall. But I guess in this game it worked because the offensive line played well. So it wasn't something that necessarily got in the way. I mean, the decision might be made for us this week anyway because we can't elevate Peters from the practice squad anymore. But I still kind of like the idea of sticking with one guy, unless it's a situation like Gabe Jackson where he'll get hurt if he has to play a whole game. So if that's not the fear, I'd rather just give it to Forsyth and live with the results, knowing the results may not be pretty. But honestly, Forsyth has been decent at right tackle so far this year. He had the one really bad game against the Ravens where everybody was bad. But other than that, I think he's been all right. Now, hopefully, in a couple weeks, this isn't going to matter because we're going to have Abe Lucas back. But for now, I think the rotation thing is just kind of getting in the way of cohesion. All right, so now we go over the defensive side of things, and again, pretty good. 61 snaps played by this defense. In a game where you didn't play a great game on defense, you gave up a lot of third downs, you gave up two touchdowns at the end of the game to let Washington tie it twice, but I I think 61 snaps is you're doing something right here. If you're getting off the field like this, because it's not like Washington turned it over a bunch. They had one turnover. They played a pretty clean game in terms of protecting the ball. So 61 snaps, which is the second lowest this year, you did something right. So let's take a look at the breakdown here, starting with the defensive line and going through. But I do want to say that it didn't feel like 61 snaps during the game, but looking at the numbers, it's pretty easy to say, hey, the team's processes were pretty much right this week. So the defensive line, Draymond Jones played 29 snaps, and I think 18 of them were as an edge rusher. So at this point, I don't know if he's going to become a full-time edge who plays inside occasionally like Michael Bennett, or is he going to, or was that just a one-game thing? I already made my video about Draymond Jones as an edge rusher. I think it's a good idea. I would like to see as much of it as we can get away with over the next few weeks to see how it changes the defense. But he still needs to play some on the defensive line, obviously, because we don't have a lot going on here. And you can see in this game, with Draymond Jones mostly playing as an edge rusher, Jaron Reed had to take a pretty big load, 48 snaps, and he's starting to wear down. He's still playing pretty well, but he is starting to wear down. Leonard Williams plays 42 snaps. Now, Leonard Williams can take it, But the only other defensive lineman you have that you feel comfortable playing is Mario Edwards, who just kind of picks up whatever's left over. Now, in a game where you only play 61 snaps on defense, you get away with that, no problem. But in a game where you're playing more snaps on defense, it's going to be hard to get away with this. Basically, with Draymond Jones playing so much edge in this game, Reed and Williams played almost every snap on the defensive line, and whatever they couldn't play, Mario Edwards would swap in for. So obviously, we can lean a little bit on Cam Young. He did not play in this game, neither did Miles Adams, but we clearly don't feel comfortable with those guys out there for significant snaps. So this is going to be a tricky balancing act, but you can kind of see the formula here. And the formula leans on us not being on the field for more than 65 snaps in a game. All right, linebacker, very straightforward here. Devin Bush was active, but he didn't play on defense. None of the other linebackers played. The only guys who played were Wagner, who played every snap and played pretty well. I thought there was one play he got pretty beat badly in coverage, but that's just going to happen. That's part of the Bobby Wagner experience right now. There's going to be like one or two plays a game where you really notice how slow Wagner is now, but you're only going to notice it once or twice a game. The other plays he's going to do great. Jordan Brooks, 49 snaps, played not his best game of the year by any stretch of the imagination, but we know he was playing hurt, so I'm not really holding anything against him. I thought he played okay. So that's really all there is for the inside linebacker stuff. Nice and easy. Edge rusher. So let's take a look here because this is where things could get interesting in the coming weeks. Boye Mafe played 75% of the game, 46 snaps. He's the workhorse, and he continues to play really well. And then things get a little bit murky, and I'm hoping that the team is able to come up with something a little better than this in the next few weeks. Darrell Taylor played 32 snaps, so a little more than half the game. Meanwhile, Derek Hall gets basically nothing, 11 snaps. He may as well have not played, honestly. And then Frank Clark gets 17 snaps. So it seems like we're acknowledging the fact that Frank Clark doesn't really have much left. I mean, you can see how much he played last week, and then this week he's basically an afterthought. He's like one level above Derek Hall, and Derek Hall is one level above not playing. So I look at this and I go, well, this is not tenable. Like Darrell Taylor cannot be this much of a focal point on the edge. He's too weak in one area of the game. And our run defense didn't get destroyed in this game. It wasn't great, but it was decent. But there are going to be teams we play that are really able to attack Darrell Taylor's run defense. And we got to find a better way in those games. So maybe Draymond Jones is the solution here. I do think this team is already starting to realize Frank Clark doesn't have anything in the tank for the Seahawks. And that's why he barely played. I will say, though, on that 3rd and 10 where Washington tied the game with less than a minute left, he was on the field. So that is one of the most important pass rush situations of the game. Maybe the most important play your defense is going to be making. And you've got him on the field instead of literally anybody else in an obvious passing situation. So there's still a dependency there, even with Draymond playing a lot of edge, that needs to be moved off of, I think. Cornerback, again, really simple. Woolen and Witherspoon play every snap. Brown plays almost every snap. He plays 48 snaps. Played pretty well. Got beat a little bit, but not too bad. Still a really good part of this secondary. And the safety stuff is also really easy. Adams and Diggs played every snap. Love played a decent amount. He mostly plays the snaps that Trey Brown doesn't play, and there's a little bit of overlap. But overall, that's really all there is to say about the secondary. The secondary's found a rhythm, and the only thing that really changes from game to game, it feels like, is who plays more between Trey Brown and Julian Love. And they just kind of play matchups. They play situations. And you got to say, in that regard, I think they pushed the right buttons. So I like what the secondary's doing. There's some stuff to figure out on edge, but overall, I'm happy with these snap counts because the offense stayed on the field and the defense stayed off the field by and large. Can still get better, but good. Really good this week. All right, I'll see you guys later. More videos coming later on. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think of Snap Count Monday this week.